Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about toxic work culture and how to address bullying and difficult situations at work. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe the videos that I'm putting out. It really helps with just the algorithm, getting my videos a bit more broader afield, and I really hope that this content can really help people. So as I mentioned before, today we're going to talk about bullying and toxic work culture. I am very sure that at some point in your life you have either experienced this, or maybe you've witnessed it with another member of staff, or you have unfortunately maybe been the perpetrator. And I think a lot of times we don't like to admit when we've gone wrong in our careers, or when maybe we've been caught up in a type of workplace culture that indirectly bullies people, and maybe just with a bit more experience and a bit more exposure to what bullying and harassment looks like at work, you've learned from your past experience. So this is a space where I don't want anyone judging anyone. I am not here to judge anybody. I know that it can be very easy to jump on the bandwagon of judgment and cancel culture, but that is not what today's video is about. I really want anyone and everybody who's watching this video to learn from this, no matter what side of the fence you are coming from. What is bullying? Now I'm going to look at my phone for this one because I really wanted to bring to you a definition of bullying, and this is very much akin to the UK legislation and policies around bullying. Where I got this definition from was acas.org. I'll put the website below because the company and the organisation is brilliant around dealing with all different types of work discrimination, work issues and work problems, and they are really good as a first step if you ever wanted to take maybe more serious steps and more formal steps around dealing with difficulties at work. I've actually used them in the past. This video is not sponsored by them, by the way. They have not asked me to do anything like this, but I know that I couldn't speak about this topic without mentioning ACAS. So what does ACAS call bullying? Or how do they define bullying? And this is what they say on their website. I will try and put the description on the screen somewhere just in case, so you can get a better understanding of it. Bullying can be described as unwanted behaviour from a person or a group. This is offensive, intimidating, malicious, or insulting. It could also involve an abuse or misuse of power, leading to undermining, humiliation, or causing physical or emotional harm to someone. And I'm just going to read a little bit more. They say that bullying might look a bit like various forms. Bullying can come into various forms, such as being a regular pattern of behaviour. This I'm going to discuss a bit later, especially around evidencing and how we evidence bullying at work. It can occur face-to-face, on social media, on work emails, calls, and may happen at work or in work-related situations, i.e. like work socials, or away days, or off the premises. Sometimes bullying is not always obvious. That is very key, by the way. It's not always obvious, and that's why it's very hard to detect, to evidence, and prove. So the full description of, ACAS has many web pages on workplace bullying and what that might look like. So please, for a more exhaustive explanation, description, jump on the website. As I said already, the link is below. So I'm going to just share this a little bit more about what I understand bullying to be at work from my own perspective. And this is coming from someone that has been bullied at work in more than one place. It was very difficult, and that's why I can speak on this topic and tell you that if anyone's experiencing that right now, I know personally how difficult that is. I know how draining it can be, and the difficulties it can pose to the rest of your life. Bullying may start at work or happen at work, but it impacts every area of your life because it impacts the person you are. So in regards to how we can sort of identify bullying at work, it really is going back to that definition that ACAS has put together. It's about looking at how you feel. If, for example, you walk into a particular room or into a particular situation that makes you feel intimidated, that makes you feel unnerved, and we're not just talking about confidence or lacking in confidence or lacking in esteem, but a sense of maybe fear walking into a particular situation, there may be some behaviors that could be quite covert or maybe even overt that you are responding to, but you're not realizing that you're responding to bullying, because at the time you could maybe akin it to, I'm not the right person for the job, or I'm just overthinking it, or I'm new to the organization, this will just eventually, move on, or I will eventually get used to it. I want you to pay attention to that inner niggle that could be bothering you when you go into particular work situations that are really concerning you. Let's say, for example, now you are looking for a new role and you want to reduce the risk of going into an organization that is toxic. Now, this particular tip it's not going to prevent you completely from walking into the wrong organization, but it is something that can help reduce the risk of walking into an organization that may have a culture of bullying. And that is to research your organization prior to interview. Now, a lot of times you hear this tip as the number one interview prep tip. And yes, it is, but it's also a way of you sussing out what your company is really about. Who are they beyond their operations? What is their culture? And is it for you? So read up on their missions, read up on their values. Try and find any content anywhere where they speak about who they are as an organization, especially from a cultural perspective. Another tip is looking at places like Indeed and Google reviews. It's really important to see what other people who may have worked there or customers that may have interacted with employees and what they say about that organization. How do they present themselves to the rest of the world? And I'm telling you, this has actually worked for me, and it's really helped me to escape some nightmare of organizations that I was even considering to work for. And some reviews, you can clearly tell it's a personal thing. Maybe it's that person's view on a particular department that you're not going to be working in. It doesn't really matter, but looking at some of those reviews may give you a bit of an indication of what that organization's about or what they could be potentially about. And also it gives you a bit more of an inkling of what other people who may not be members of staff view, or how they view that company. When you're doing this research, look out for phrases that bring about familiarity. So look out for words like "we are a family." That phrase in itself, you see it all over the company's websites, their literature, social media posts, whatever, I'm going to be inclined to say that there is a level of comfortability that that company wants you to have with them. And now I'm not saying that level of comfortability means an automatic negative or they're automatically unprofessional. No, I'm not saying that. But it's an indication that there may be some behaviors that may not be appropriate at work that could be allowed within this workplace, and it's allowed through the organization systemically. Banter culture. If you go into a workplace and they are, how can I put it? I remember going into a workplace and knowing that the banter was the jewel of that organization's culture. Banter was praised, banter was the thing you did every day, and if you wasn't part of the banter, you was going to be the victim of the banter. And I would say when I was younger, I thought banter was okay at work. Where I am now in my career, I had never actually understand or see why banter has to be a core part of work values and the mission. It doesn't add any value to your output, really. All it does is bring about, let's say, familiar cohesion across staff and maybe also leadership. There also may be a barrier and a lack of respect between leadership and staff as well. That introduces that. So that ability to run inappropriate jokes, hurtful jokes, offensive jokes, it all comes under the banner of banter, which is allowed in the workplace. So therefore you can't really complain, and the minute you do complain, you are seen as the outcast, the other, and not a part of our workplace culture.
It's a bag of rubbish.
So no, you go to a workplace and they are thriving off banter, that's another question mark. A relaxed attitude about professionalism. Now, this one you have to judge for yourself, because everybody has their own subjective view of what professionalism is and what it isn't, and you need to judge that for yourself. Look at other YouTube videos. I might try to tag one over here somewhere, so that you can actually look up what you believe professionalism is, and also what it means to you. When professionalism is relaxed at work, and this is also very much dependent on the sector you are in. Like the very first point of familiarity, or we are a family statement, it brings about familiarity and contempt, because professionalism is seen as something that is either old school, outdated, not needed, that's not what we do here. And actually no, professionalism also brings about a particular type of safety. It brings about boundaries on what we want to accept and what we will not. So when you present yourself as a professional person, you are letting the other person know, or other people know, that there's a type of presentation you will accept and you won't accept. But only you can deem what your professional boundaries are and what they're not. And if you walk into a workplace that seems to have a very much marred line about what professionalism is, set your own standard. Make sure you have your standard for what you believe your professionalism is and how you're going to carry out your work. So, fitting in a workplace is crucial to your happiness at work. I do not care what anyone says. I know some people say you can go to work, I just need to get paid and leave. For those people, good on you, brilliant. However, for some of us where work is a very much a central part to who we are and what we do, fitting in does play a bit of a part of our happiness and contentness at work. Is contentness even a word? I think it is. Oh, sorry, I just had a really bad dyslexic moment. Oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah, so fitting in is key. But if you go to a workplace where you extremely feel like you're either isolated, you don't belong, and let's say you've given it a long enough time, let's say you've passed probation, it's 8-9 months in, and you still feel like very much like an outcast, that may not be the role for you, and it may not be the organization for you. So one thing that really helped me in understanding this and not misconstruing me not fitting into a workplace versus failure was understanding this one particular concept around gardening. Certain plants need to thrive in particular environments, i.e. a desert plant cannot thrive in the jungle, a jungle plant can't thrive in the garden. It has to be in certain conditions for it to grow, nurture, and do its best. So if you feel like after a long period of time being in an organization, you do not belong, you do not fit in, behaviors are clearly toxic, harassment goes on, bullying is clearly there, and you are just not a part of that, and you feel like you are not a part of it, it may just be that you are not the right fit, or better said, they are not the right fit for you. Let's say they're not the right fit for you. You need to know why they're not the right fit for you before you take that jump and say, I'm out of here. Make a pros and cons list. A pros and cons list is a brilliant way of looking at all the thoughts and feelings that go on inside your head on paper. And very quickly, depending on the volume of the pros and the cons list, you will see very quickly where the issue lies. Is it within yourself? Is it within the organization? Is it around personal development? Is it around personal development? Maybe it's just, confidence in yourself. You will see the themes running through your list. I remember when I did a list for a job that I went for that I felt very out of place, maybe for a good 7 months, completely out of place. And when I looked at the list, the cons outweighed the pros. I'm going to estimate this probably around about by 80%. 80% were cons, 20%, and I'm being generous there, were pros. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, we have to make a plan. We have to figure out what the next steps are. And for that time in that role, I think I managed to stay maybe around about 9 months, and I moved on. And when I moved on, I went to a better workplace where I thrived for a few years and I did really well. So it's really important to know that toxic workplaces, you're not always the problem, it could be them. And also that you can easily identify where the issues are. You have options, you have choices, you can definitely move on. Manager-employee relations is so important in trying to ensure that you are in the right workplace for you. Is that relationship between you and your manager. If that relationship is extremely strained, or there is a high level of mistrust, it does not matter what money they're paying you. That relationship will hinder your time in that workplace. It may be even central to the toxic feeling that you get for your workplace, which is that relationship between yourself and the manager. Managers, in my opinion, and this is honestly my subjective view, they have a job to do. They have things that they have competencies and they have objectives that they have to meet. At the same time, a core part of that role is to nurture and support you. You can't feel nurtured and supported by someone you just do not trust. And that could be for whatever reason. I'd probably say at this point, the reason doesn't even matter. Whether it's something you saw in them, whether it's just your own intuition, it doesn't matter. The relationship cannot thrive, you cannot thrive when your main link into your workplace or the person that oversees you, you do not trust. And as much as it's a responsibility on both sides to build a positive and constructive relationship, I would probably say, as a manager myself, the manager has a big part to play in cultivating a safe space for their employees. However, as we mentioned earlier on in the video, if you have a workplace that systemically has issues of toxicity around bullying and harassment and other range of really difficult behaviors, your manager is only going to mirror what that organization mirrors, what that organization allows. So this is not to say to give them any passes. I don't think any manager has any passes, because we're all human and we all know what respect looks like. But if there's a culture of this, it may not just be your manager's problem, it's your manager's problem, it's the overall leadership, it's SLT, senior leadership, it's all of that. So I want you to understand that there's different components that come into play around the employee and manager relationship. Health and well-being. No matter where you are in your journey at work, and if you are currently going through a bullying or you feel that you might be being bullied, your health needs to come first. It doesn't matter what work demands are going on. If you are extremely stressed and extremely overwhelmed, especially in this moment as you're watching this video, I'm encouraging you to take some time off. When you are at the heart of a toxic culture, you are the victim of offensive and malicious behavior, it will impact your work. I don't care what level of resilience you have, it will impact you and impact your work, because you're not performing at 100. You are on edge, you're constantly watching your back, you may even feel extremely emotional quite a lot of the time when you're maybe at a particular office or in a particular place where the bullying and behaviour is taking place. Nobody should be going to work feeling like that. So I want you to prioritize your health. And that may, as I mentioned earlier, that could be taking time off, going to your GP, speaking to family and friends, doing something nice for yourself on the weekend. However, with that last one, it may not address any of the behaviors, but it will make you sort of bring more balance to the negative issues that you're facing in your workplace. If it's got to a place where, let's say, for example, you dread going into work, or you dread turning on your laptop, you just dread to see what influx of emails are coming in, and you're concerned about certain communications that are coming that cause you distress, take time off work. I know that not everybody has this privilege. I know that different people are on different sort of work contracts, so you have to do what's right for you and what your needs are. But where you can, take time off. So the last few bits I'm going to mention is about how you're going to overcome some of the bullying that you're experiencing at work. And we've spoken a lot about a range of things throughout this video, but these last few topics I want to bring up, it's just really going to hit home how you're going to overcome some of this bullying. So first thing, if you think you're being bullied, I want you to document everything. Keep a diary, keep a list, keep it private to yourself, document everything. Nothing stupid that you can't document. It's your personal book to yourself, or your notepad, or whatever that is secret to you. Document everything. I don't care if they cut your eye, kissed their teeth, laughed at you, isolated you, called you into one-to-one meetings a plethora of times in a week. It does not matter. Jot it down. Jot down dates, times, and locations as well. Reporting it to HR. Now, once you think you've got enough information written down, yes, follow policy and procedure of your workplace. Report it to HR, report it to senior management. Let's say, unfortunately, it might be your direct manager, then you would report it to their manager, and follow the policy and procedure of the organisation. Ensure that you're very much familiar with the legislation and policies of the organisation as well before you even proceed doing anything. However, there's a caveat to this one. No one in that workplace is your friend. HR is not your friend. Now, for policy and procedure, yes, follow it, report it, do whatever you need to do. Be very mindful around what you share. Share only the facts. Share only the information that you would probably share to the person that's actually, treating you unfairly. Because at the end of the day, let's say, for example, you are in a situation of bullying and you choose to go to employment tribunal. HR are not going to be on your side or in defense. HR is going to be on the side of the company, because that is who hires them. So I'm not saying that HR can't be friendly and nice, they will be. But everything you say, by the time you get to court, will be shared and will be turned and used for their defense, not yours. Seek support from trusted people, i.e. that's your family and friends. And everyone, I would say also colleagues. I think you will know who those colleagues are. You will know who you can trust. But once again, similar to the HR point that I raised previously, be careful who you're talking to, who you're sharing this information to. Know your rights. Now, in Britain, employment rights look a bit different depending on how long you've worked at an organisation. And I'll be very honest, I'm not as clued up on the latest or any new updates since maybe the last 3 years. But from what I remember, there's a certain amount of years you have to be working with an organisation to get full employment rights. So just pay attention, know your rights, look up work placement rights for those that are either temporary workers, part-time workers, agency, full-time. I think there's some differences there between your contract and what sort of worker you are and the organisation and what your rights are. I will link to some of the pages from ACAS so you can see those as well and read up on that. At the same time, most workplaces have a emotional well-being support plan or support program for staff. Utilize it. I would say utilize the counselling services if your workplace has them. They are independent. They also cannot disclose things to your workplace. Unlike HR, they're not directly hired by the organization. They're usually commissioned in to provide a service to staff. So utilize counselors, utilize befriending services, seek help and get it. Also, another key reason why I encourage you to do this is because if you ever need evidence of the impact this behavior has had on you, well, that particular service may be able to provide a report around the support that they provided you and why they provided that. Also, if you've been diagnosed during that time for low mood or depression or anxiety, all of that will play a part in the evidencing of the bullying you have experienced at work. So, I've said a lot today. I hope some of this was coherent. But overcoming workplace bullying can be difficult depending on what route you take. It can be hard and it can be testing on you, but it's not impossible for you to overcome. This is coming from someone that has been through it. So as much as it's a very hard and difficult time to go through, you will get out the other side. I promise you, you will get out the other side. But prioritize you first, prioritize your health first. Work and all of that can come second. You can always make money. I do not care what anyone says. So if you have to leave somewhere because it's really getting to you and it's damaging you, get out and collect as much evidence as you can, whether that's emails, reports, your diary, jot it all down. Anyway, so that's the end of this video. I really hope that this has helped someone. If you have any questions or you just want to talk a bit more about your experience, please hit up the comment section. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss what workplace bullying has done to you, done for you. Have you managed to overcome it? Have you helped someone else through it? Honestly, like, we can all share something to help someone else. Right, thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to like and subscribe. And yes, I hopefully will see you next week.